We make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls. That's not just a guess. That is a literal word-for-word quote from a leaked 2019 internal Facebook presentation about Instagram. We're starting here today because, well, it proves exactly what's at stake every time we log on. The platforms we use every single day are studying us, and their own data shows the profound impact they're having on our minds.
Welcome to our explainer on the battle for your attention. Today we're uncovering the hidden mechanics of the attention economy. We'll look at the real psychological fallout, and most importantly, how you can actually reclaim your digital agency. We're pulling from deep dive psychological studies, leaked corporate docs, and testimonies from tech insiders to give you the whole picture. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The mental health crisis. Because before we can even try to fix the problem, we have to understand the sheer scale of the real-world fallout.
All right, so the crucial point here is this absolutely devastating number, a 134% increase in youth depression by the year 2020. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt points out in The Anxious Generation that this massive spike coincides perfectly with the early 2010s. And what happened then? That's the exact moment the smartphone, complete with front-facing cameras and platforms like Instagram, became everywhere. Gen Z essentially became the very first generation in history to go through puberty with a portal right in their pockets, constantly calling them away from the physical world.
The root of this crisis actually lies in this kind of fascinating paradox. Haidt points out that parents today are operating under a culture of safetyism. Basically, we're vastly overprotecting kids in the physical world, keeping them inside, away from physical risks, but we're completely underprotecting them in the digital Wild West. And because of this, children's brains are missing out on what Haidt calls discover mode. Without that autonomous, independent physical play, they lose the ability to handle normal, everyday risks. It leaves them incredibly vulnerable to the intense pressures of the online world.
Section 2. The Attention Economy Playbook. To figure out why this is happening and why it's just so impossibly hard to put our phones down, we need to look under the hood at the business model behind the screens.
Tech pioneer Jaron Lanier coined this incredibly accurate acronym for modern social media, BUMMER. It stands for Behaviors of Users Modified and Made into an Empire for Rent. It hits the nail on the head, honestly. It captures the reality that these platforms are not just neutral utilities. Their entire financial existence relies on keeping you hooked, so they can literally modify your behavior and rent out that predictability to advertisers.
Former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris points out that, look, this is an incredibly unfair fight. Tech companies wield what he calls asymmetric power. Just think about it for a second. A platform has more compromising, sensitive data about you than your therapist, your lawyer, or your priest. They know exactly when you're lonely, they figure out your personality traits just based on how fast you scroll, and they use this massive informational advantage to subtly influence your behavior.
And this immense power is wielded in a literal race to the bottom of your brainstem. These platforms are intentionally hacking human weaknesses. They use slot machine mechanics, like the pull to refresh feature, to hit you with unpredictable spikes of dopamine. They use infinite scroll to entirely remove stopping cues, so your brain honestly just forgets to move on to another task. And they absolutely optimize for fear and outrage, because those are the exact emotions that keep the human nervous system locked in.
To pull this off efficiently at a massive scale, the algorithms essentially build a digital voodoo doll of you. Every single click, every second you linger on a video, every like you leave, it's all used to add detail to this avatar. Then, the platform's supercomputers test millions of different posts and videos against your voodoo doll to perfectly predict what is going to keep you staring at the screen the longest. So it's not a fair game of self-control. It's literally you against a supercomputer aimed directly at your brain.
Section 3. Are we really powerless? Okay, hearing about voodoo dolls and brainstem hacking sounds straight out of a sci-fi horror movie, right? But are we actually just helpless victims in all this?
Well, behavioral design expert Nir Eyal strongly argues no. He says treating tech like some unbeatable, mind-controlling drug creates a false and highly dangerous sense of learned helplessness. If we believe our brains are totally hijacked and we have no power, we just stop trying to fix the problem and wait around for the government to step in. But Eyal argues we actually have vast personal agency here. Yes, these tech tactics are good, but they aren't that good. We are entirely capable of becoming what he calls indistractable.
Section 4. Reclaiming your digital life. So let's look at exactly how we can build a path out of this doom-scrolling cycle and actually fight back.
Eyal outlines these 4 clear, actionable steps to systematically hack back against technology's persuasive little tricks. It really starts from the inside out, so let's break these down quickly. Step 1 is mastering internal triggers. Instead of just blaming the phone for ringing or buzzing, we first have to address why we pick it up when it's completely silent. More often than not, it's to escape some internal discomfort, right? Like anxiety, stress, or just plain boredom. EL suggests using the 10-minute rule. When you feel that strong urge to check your feed, tell yourself you can absolutely do it, but you have to wait 10 minutes first. During that time, try to visualize your urges as leaves floating away on a stream. Usually, by the time those 10 minutes are up, the emotional wave has totally passed.
Step 2 brings us to this incredibly powerful quote. You can't call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from. Wow. So Eyal advocates for something called time boxing. This means aggressively scheduling your day down to the minute based on what you actually value. If you schedule an hour to scroll social media or play video games, guess what? It is no longer a distraction. It's a planned activity. But if you haven't planned your day, literally everything has the potential to derail you.
Now, alongside fixing our personal habits, we obviously need some structural solutions too, especially for the younger generation. Jonathan Haidt strongly advocates for interventions like phone-free schools, and the data here is just amazing. Schools that simply ban phones during the school day see almost instantaneous, massive improvements in student happiness, social interaction, and academic focus. It's a game changer. Haidt also suggests raising the age of internet adulthood to 16 and actively encouraging kids to get back into autonomous, unsupervised physical play to rebuild that discover mode we were talking about earlier.
Section 5. The future of connection. Now, as we set up these boundaries, it's really important to remember that the technology itself isn't entirely the enemy.
When we operate from a place of personal agency rather than just blind compulsion, academic research actually confirms that social media is incredibly powerful. The International Education and Research Journal points out that these platforms can beautifully alleviate feelings of isolation, especially for marginalized groups. They are absolutely vital for spreading public health information, and they've proven to be incredible catalysts for grassroots social movements. The good is definitely there, just waiting for us, once we strip away those manipulative business models.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. You know, Jaron Lanier points out something really funny but true. The internet absolutely loves cats. Why? Because cats are independent, they're unpredictable, and they entirely refuse to be trained. So I'm going to leave you with this final, absolutely vital question. Will you remain a predictable, easily triggered pawn for the attention economy, or will you embrace your individuality, hack back your attention, and choose to be a cat? The choice is entirely yours.